Hello everybody, my name is you, and welcome back to Let's Play Nintendo Land. In the previous episode, we began playing through the competitive attractions in the game with Animal Crossing Sweet Day, and in today's episode we're playing through Luigi's Ghost Mansion.
Hold the Wii remote sideways.
Hit the ghost with your light! Exclamation point! Alrighty then. So how this game works is Luigi's Ghost Mansion is basically a game of hide and seek, where the player on the Wii U gamepad will be controlling a ghost that cannot be seen on the TV. So what you could do is the player with the ghost will be trying to sneak up on the other players and trying to catch them and stuff like that, while the players on the TV will be working together to catch the ghost in their flashlight. So this is a pretty interesting game, and there's a couple tricks you can do. The ghost will be able to do a charging attack that will take out all the flashlights if they're in the purple smoke. This is done by holding the ZL and ZR buttons, and you can also press the A button to dash around, although this will make you visible on the TV, so you definitely want to be careful about this. You can do a couple fun things like using the dash to appear out of nowhere, to just be silly and things like that. This is probably the minigame that we have the most fun in terms of being silly, because the people on the TV will be like in the kitchen pretending to make a sandwich or things like that. There's a lot of really fun things you can do in this game. Well, you can actually make a sandwich in the game, but you know what I mean. It's just for fun and stuff like that. Now, the thing about this game is that the rules do change depending on whether or not you have more players, but they don't change enough to really justify demonstrating both versions of the game. Basically, if you have 3 or more players, then you'll have less and less Monita robots patrolling the areas in the game, and you'll also not have a life counter. And basically what I mean by that is when you're playing with only one person on TV, you'll have a couple of lives to work with, but everybody has their own single life in 3 or 4 or 5 player mode, and you can revive each other using the flashlight. Alright then, now we're going to be moving on to another stage in Luigi's Ghost Mansion. There are 5 of them in this minigame, which is the most that you'll get out of all the competitive attractions in the game. So that's pretty neat. So while we go through this level, there's something I'd like to talk about, and that's, surprise surprise, the stamps you can get in this game. So there are 5 stamps as per usual. There's Back from the Brink, win as the ghost with only a sliver of health left, Battery-free victory, win without picking up any batteries, Ghostly Goodnight, win 10 times as the ghost, Magical win using magic, and Untouchable Roof Wraith. We'll go into this one a little bit later because it's a bit of a spoiler for the last stage in Luigi's Ghost Mansion. Now, something else that's pretty well worth mentioning about this minigame is there are batteries that are going to be scattered across the stage. It probably goes without saying, but these can help refill your flashlight because eventually the batteries will run out and you'll have to go find them. This isn't actually in the main games, so I'm not entirely sure why it's in Ghost Mansion, but it's still a pretty neat idea that adds a little bit more sense of tension as your battery runs low and the ghost is nearby. There are 2 versions of the battery that will appear: the standard run. This one will... okay, real quick, there's something pretty funny about this right here. While I was recording this, my mother was helping me record the footage, and while we were playing, I was trying to sneak up on her because I was playing with the Wii U gamepad. And so when I was trying to sneak up on her, I was all like, I'm gonna get you. I got you. Oh, I'm defeated now. So it was a pretty fun time. This one right here is kind of a broken stage when it comes to playing with the Wii U gamepad, because the ghost can fly over the conveyor belt, which is a bit of an unfair advantage. But at the same time, it kind of seems like this one has less walls to work with that will defend the ghost from appearing whenever there's a thunder strike outside. Basically, you've seen this a couple times already throughout the video, but basically how that works is, if you're not hiding behind a wall and lightning flashes through the windows, then you will be visible on the TV screen. Going back to the batteries real quick, I didn't mention the big one that can appear on rare occasions. This one will only really appear when you're very low on health, and it'll appear kind of rarely, but not really. It's far less common than a regular battery is what I'm trying to say. But basically this one will expand the range of the flashlight, will make it much wider, and it'll also deal a lot more damage to the ghost. So if you have two of these things on your team, then the ghost is going to be in a lot of trouble. But that's the fun thing about this game, because the thing about most of the asymmetrical games in this game is that some of them can feel like they're a little bit broken, not necessarily with Nintendo Land, but asymmetrical gaming in general. Sometimes it kind of feels like it has too much favor with the Wii U gamepad. If you want a good example, then Mario Party 10 is a great example of this, where Bowser, who's playable on the gamepad, has a huge advantage over the TV players, and it gets to the point where it's just not fun anymore. This game, on the other hand, does a really great balance of making sure the Wii Remote and the gamepad are on an even playing field. One thing that's a little bit weird about this minigame in particular is there aren't a whole lot of music tracks you can get in the Nintendo Land Plaza for this one, but each stage has its own individual music, so I'm not entirely sure why it doesn't have more music in the plaza, but it's just a little bit weird. Now moving on to this stage, this is one that I honestly don't really understand that much. My other sister loves this one, and I don't really know why, but basically with this one, the knight's armor will freak out whenever anybody gets near them. And you can use your flashlight to kind of stun them, but I'm not entirely sure what that's supposed to do for the gameplay itself. I'm going to do some more research on this in between videos, well, in between me recording this and editing, you know what I mean. I'm going to do more research and have a caption on screen somewhere in the video, assuming of course that I can find a place to put the caption, because look at the layout right now, there isn't really a whole lot of room to work with. I probably should have thought a little bit further ahead before I'm making this layout, but whatever. Speaking of which, I really hope you guys do like this layout, because this took a lot of work to figure out. Like, originally, way back when I started this Let's Play, I had a whole different computer, and I had a Sony Movie Studio to work with. But the thing is, that computer got busted in a move, and they can't fix it right now. And the editing program doesn't work on my backup laptop, which is what I'm using right now. So it doesn't really work that well on this computer, so I had to figure out another way to do the editing for the series. And real quick before I continue on with that, I just gotta say I love the ghost animations. I was like, oh yeah, I won. Alright then. Real quick before I get back to what I was saying about editing the series, this is a very interesting stage, and it kind of leans in more in favor of the Wii Remote players. Because there is nowhere for you to hide. As you can see on a moment, when the lightning flashes, there's nowhere for the ghost to hide. And this leads to the final stamp of Luigi's Ghost Mansion, Untouchable Roof Wraith. That's very hard to say, try saying that 5 times fast. Basically, win on Monita's rooftop without taking any damage. As you can imagine, this one's pretty difficult. But anyway, going back to how editing the series works, after I was having problems with Sony Movie Studio, I was asking the James Rose if he would be able to take over editing the competitive attractions, because he has a more advanced editing program than I do. But then I figured out a trick with OBS, and I know I talked about this in the previous episode, but basically I'm using the special magical abilities of OBS to have multiple screens on the same time. The thing is, though, this takes a little time. This adds some more time into the editing process. So that's kind of a downside with this, and it's going to be an even bigger problem when it comes to editing bigger videos. It's going to require multiple screens, but that's not going to be for a little while. As I also mentioned before, the purple clouds of smoke and doom and destruction, that can be pretty useful for taking out the Monita robots, is particularly on this stage, because they will all go out, but it also leaves you vulnerable for a very long time, so you definitely don't want to use it too often. And with that, we're ending this video off here, so thank you all so much for watching this episode of Nintendo Land. In the next episode, we're going to be taking care of the final attraction in the game, Mario Chase. And next time, it'll give it to you. Oh yeah.
Battery. Flashlight. Flashlight. Super light. Super light. Super light. Robotic arm. Robotic arm. Suit of armor. Suit of armor. Ghost statue. Ghost statue.